This global launch is, excuse me, next slide, please. Before I invite our co-chairs and welcome our speakers, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank to my team members, Alison Etukakban and Özge Özer, who are the FIP Educational Partnership Coordinators, for their tremendous efforts, commitment, and support throughout this year to bring this summit for you. They'll be facilitating the summit together with me, and they'll also present some key results from our work today. Let's give them a virtual applause. We also have our exceptional volunteers throughout this journey with us, whom are either with us today or they sent us a video message, or they are also participants. Without our volunteers, we wouldn't be having this summit simply. So thanks to our volunteers as well. Next slide, please. This global summit is going to be co-chaired by the FIPEd chair, Professor Ralph Altiere from the United States, and our CEO, Dr. Catherine Duggan. I'll hand over to our co-chairs very shortly. I'd also warmly welcome our speakers and panelists at this global summit. We are together with the chairs of the FIP-UNITWIN Regional Workshops across all regions, FIP and UNESCO leadership, who will be sharing their visions on the advancement of pharmaceutical education. Next slide, please. Before we start, I have a couple of housekeeping announcements. This webinar is being recorded and live streamed via Facebook right now. To support attendees, English subtitles will be available during the event as well. The recording of this event will be available on our website on www.fip.org. And we are going to have some poll questions to engage you. So we invite all of you to join your region's poll, and you may use the Q&A box and speakers will answer your questions. You are also welcome to provide feedback from the FIP webinars at fip.org. And if you are not a FIP member yet, we invite you to join our community as well. Next slide. Is it only me who is seeing the same slides? Yes, we are on the next slide. Thank you. I guess I had an issue, so apologies for that. So before we get into the summit, I just wanted to take this opportunity to explain the journey we had, in which most of you have been with us. So the FIP-UNITWIN Regional Workshops Global Summit, so through members, in order to assess their needs in pharmaceutical education and identify their priority development goals through performing surveys, research, and also using existing and available data and evidence throughout our network. And we came up with regional SWOT analysis and FIP-DG's prioritization for all of the 6 regions, WHO 6 regions around the world. In October, we conducted the regional workshops with our members across all regions, and then we came up with draft regional roadmaps. And throughout November, we have performed a consultation on these roadmaps in order to identify and consolidate all the discussions. We had the workshops, and then today at the Global Summit, where we are right now, we are going to launch these final roadmaps on how to advance pharmaceutical education at every region around the world. And then as a result of these roadmaps, FIP is going to launch a call to action on advancing pharmaceutical education globally. And then we are aiming to expand our FIP UNESCO-UNITWIN program across all regions, in addition to Africa. So we are going to explain the next steps, how you can get involved in this. And then from there onwards, we'll be performing education and scientific transformation through partnerships and through our members. Next slide, please. Today, the learning objectives and the aims for our Global Summit is that we are aiming to present you your region's roadmap. And of course, you'll also explore other regions' roadmap on advancing pharmacy and pharmaceutical science education. Then we'll be launching our global call to action. So we'll be presenting you to explore this global action and see what kind of ownerships you can take back at your country and your region. And then we have, through our participants, you'll be discovering country cases and next steps of the FIP-UNITWIN Center for Excellence program and how you can get involved in this program. And next slide, please. This is going to be my final, I promise. So we have a busy schedule today, and I'll hand over to our co-chairs shortly for their opening and welcome messages. And then we have our president, our professional and scientific secretaries. So they are going to deliver their 1 FIP messages on pharmaceutical education. And then we have 2 parts today. In part 1, our regional co-chairs, led by Ralph Altiere, will be presenting and launching the roadmaps. We are going to have some poll questions there. So we invite all of you to join your own region's poll. So we'll explore how we can deliver these roadmaps together with you. In part 2, FIP's global call to action will be launched, and this part is going to be led by our CEO, Dr. Catherine Duggan, and then she's going to wrap up the entire event. So this is going to be our program, and buckle up for the summit. Next slide, please. Thank you. So it's my pleasure to hand over to our co-chairs, Professor Ralph Altiere, who's the FIPEd chair from United States, and our CEO, Dr. Catherine Duggan. Over to you, Ralph and Catherine, and welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nilhan, and greetings and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today to continue our journey for advancing pharmacy education globally. We all know that education, both initial and continuing, is not a static endeavor. It must continue to keep up with the changing healthcare environment, and we must strive to lead the future change in practice and science. This is an exciting and inspiring proposition that we can all contribute to by keeping a future focus. To quote a maxim attributed to a teacher and civilian astronaut, Krista McAuliffe, "I touch the future, I teach." The same applies to all of our mission areas in pharmacy education and science. And that is what we are about today at this global summit, helping to shape the future. FIP-UNESCO-UNITWIN is a unique program for intra and inter-regional collaborations, knowledge sharing, capacity building, research and education transformations through partnerships. The UNITWIN program began 11 years ago with an agreement between FIP and UNESCO to establish a global pharmacy education development program. UNESCO support and partnership brings great benefit to the UNITWIN program and to our constituents that we have valued since day one and continue to value to this day and into the future. The program began in sub-Saharan Africa. Using FIP resources to guide progress, the African Center for Excellence work culminated in the 2020 Pharmacy Education in Sub-Saharan Africa report. The experience and work of our African colleagues provided the momentum to expand the UNITWIN program to meet its original global mandate. FIPEd, with the steadfast support of FIP's president and CEO, began expanding UNITWIN through the regional workshops completed in October that in turn led us to this global summit. Acknowledging the one FIP construct, the regional workshops and global summit are focused on education, bringing all stakeholders from practice, science, education, and workforce together. The outcomes from those workshops, which had broad and active engagement from all regions, led to the ensuing roadmaps and call to action that we report on today. They will be for all stakeholders to implement, an endeavor that we are embarking on with this global summit. Thank you to all who worked on these workshops, the FIP staff, Nilhan Uzman and her team, Ozga, Allison, and others, and for all who participated in the workshops to bring us to this day. I have the privilege of leading part one of the summit to announce the roadmaps where regional chairs will present the regional roadmap and ask for your feedback. And now I'd like to turn it over to Catherine Duggan, the FIP CEO, who will provide her welcoming remarks. Welcome, Catherine.
Hello, Ralph. Thank you so much for those great words. And thank you so much to everybody who's in attendance today, and also to those of you who are attending after the live event. It's my great honor to be part of today's Global Summit. As Ralph has mentioned, I'm the CEO of FIP. Firstly, I would like to recognise and thank all our AIM members, our member organisations, our key regional stakeholders and chairs of workshops for their engagement and contribution. You have all been amazing. Your observations from the workshops demonstrated to all of us that we have much in alignment, but that we need to look at this and prioritise through a regional lens. We know that we need advances to be nationally driven, regionally enabled and globally led, but it's really important that we prioritise based on the needs that you have in nation, you have across the region, and that your patients and the public have too. As ever, and Ralph has mentioned, we've built on years of experience that has built and worked by FIPEd and FIP UNESCO UNITWIN programme. You'll all note that yesterday was a Universal Health Coverage Day, which raises our eyes to the wider challenge of leaving nobody behind. We all play our part, we all have a role. And leaving nobody behind is never more important than in initial education and in the CPD that we may need. I mentioned I'm the CEO, and in my first quarter of appointment, FIP signed up to the Astana Declaration in October 2018. And in doing so, we signed up to pharmacy being part of universal health coverage endeavours through primary healthcare. We, as a federation, aim to present evidence of impact across all areas of related practice and across all 6 regions of WHO. But colleagues, to be able to deliver, we not only need evidence of impact, but also a skilled and competent, flexible and adaptable workforce that can deliver patient and person-centred care, from self-care to managing multi-morbidities, acute episodes, and very complex medicines. We therefore need evolving CPD packages that are easily accessible and build on our existing capabilities. But fundamentally, we need undergraduate and initial education that delivers the education we all need for a day one pharmacist of the future. Educational leadership is never more important when we have this in our minds. Educational transformations will close the gap in workforce practice and science across regions, linked to the FIP priorities, where we have bundled together NCDs, safety and prevention. And then the enabling clusters of work include UNITWIN, technology and regulations. Because colleagues, without the appropriate regulation, without the appropriate technology, we cannot deliver primary healthcare. But all of that rests on education. FIP commits to provide your resources, tools, platforms and expertise. And we are moving towards a One FIP hub as we evolve from our workforce development hub, dedicated to support the implementation of the roadmaps and the relevant FIP development goals in countries and regions. So I will come back in a short while to announce the global call to action in part 2 of the summit, where we would like everyone on this summit today to pledge their commitment to walk this journey with us. Thank you so much. Today is the start of our journey towards 2030, and we take that first step together. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. It is now my privilege to introduce our FIP president, Dominique Jourdain, a practicing community pharmacist who is a visionary leader for FIP and as strong a supporter of education, pharmaceutical sciences, and UNITWIN as he is for pharmacy practice. Welcome, President Jourdain.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Dear colleagues, it is my privilege to welcome you to the FIP Global Summit on Pharmaceutical Education, where we will consolidate the findings from FIP-UNITWIN Regional Workshops, launch regional roadmaps, and FIP's global call to action for advancing pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences education. Last October, we hosted 6 comprehensive, informative, and insightful One FIP-UNITWIN Regional Workshops, which brought FIP's member academic institutions, professional organizations, key pharmacy stakeholders, and guests across all regions to co-create One FIP roadmaps to advance pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences education. Having attended to these first of its kind One FIP workshop personally, I observed that they have been very insightful and interactive. I was delighted to hear that participants shared similar feedbacks, and found the workshops engaging and impactful. The United Nations has set 2030 as the deadline to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and FIP has pledged to support the achievement of UN Sustainable Development Goals through the FIP Development Goals. And our profession is on transformational journey to changing the world through the implementation of these goals. According to UNESCO, FIP's major global partner in education and science, Futures of Education Initiative, knowledge and learning have potential to shape the future of humanity and the planet. Knowledge, education, and learning needs to be reimagining in a world of increasing complexity and uncertainty. We need a new social contract for education that can repair injustices while transforming the future. We need to partner with you in this transformational journey, as well as key stakeholders such as UNESCO, with trust and solidarity, and take collective actions. The FIP-UNESCO partnership positions UNITWIN Regional Centres for Excellence as a fundamental platform to enable educational and scientific partnerships by bringing together academic institutions, educational stakeholders, and partners. During my presidency, FIP will hold a Health Ministers Summit in 2023, where we will report progress towards the achievement of the FIP development goals. Building on years of experience, expertise, and resources from FIP on pharmacy and pharmaceutical science education, the One FIP roadmaps on pharmaceutical education and FIP's global call to action for advancing pharmaceutical education will guide us towards 2023 and onwards to 2030 for transforming our profession, shaping the future of humanity and the planet. We rely on you to take ownership of these roadmaps and call to action, and we are committed to mobilize FIP's networks and expertise to support you for the advancement of pharmaceutical education and science through education in your countries and across all regions. Long live pharmaceutical education, long live FIP.
Thank you, Dominique, for those inspiring words on the transformative power of education. If I may have the next slide, please. It's now my pleasure to introduce Luis Lorenco, who's the professional secretary for the FIP Board of Pharmaceutical Practice and a member of the FIPEd Exco, FIP Exco, and FIP Bureau. Luis also is a community pharmacist who serves the Portuguese Pharmaceutical Society as a national board member and the president of the South and Autonomous Regions branch of the society. Prior to his recent election in October of this year as FIP BPP professional secretary, Luis served for 8 years as secretary and treasurer of the BPP community pharmacy section. So welcome, Luis.
Thank you so much, Rolf. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. It is an honor to be here as a representative of the practice area within FIP. And following the motto that there is no pharmacy practice without the pharmaceutical workforce, and there can be no pharmaceutical workforce without educational and scientific foundation, it makes all sense that we involve practice when we discuss pharmacy education. A well-educated pharmaceutical workforce can be adaptable, flexible, and future-proof to meet the health needs of the public and in all areas of practice. And during the pandemic that is still running, we noticed that when practitioners were asked to embrace new skills and competencies, mostly on vaccination and testing. And we know from our experience on the practice that we need to have education to help us overcome these challenges. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend the workshops due to the short notice following my election as professional secretary, but I acknowledge the participation of many practitioners on the workshops. I would like to emphasize a few points related with the call. First of all, it is bottom up, so a lot of people were involved, and then all together merged, or their perspectives were merged in order to have something broader and international. And also acknowledge the fact that we have involved many pharmaceutical organizations focusing on practice, on both on workshops and discussions, so their views are involved on this call. And there are a couple of few points as a member of the BPP, Board of Pharmaceutical Practice, that I would like to emphasize. First, the idea that you need to enhance interdisciplinary and interprofessional education. We are very much into this topic, and as a BPP representative, it's of paramount importance to move forward with this view, and also this idea of establishing alliances between universities and professional organizations to develop policies, facilitate educational partnerships, conduct regional global faculty exchanges for capacity building and knowledge sharings. At the end, I would like to congratulate all the team who has made us all be here together, especially to Ralph Altiere for his leadership as a lead of FIPEd, and as a member of the BPP and a practitioner myself. I'm very much excited to be involved in this call, so I can assure you that myself, the Board of Pharmaceutical Practice, and all the sections are very much looking forward to be part of this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis, for your support for the education enterprise and the UNITWIN program and its engagement with the practice community, which obviously is critically important. It's now my privilege to introduce Giovanni Poletti, Scientific Secretary of the Board of Pharmaceutical Sciences and a member of the FIPEd Executive Committee, FIP Executive Committee, and the FIP Bureau. Giovanni has been an educator and a researcher for many years. In addition to those continuing roles, he also now serves as Associate Dean for Graduate Studies and Interim Dean of the St. Louis College of Pharmacy within the University of the Health Sciences and Pharmacy in St. Louis in the United States, all of which I suspect keeps him awake at night. Welcome, Giovanni.
Thanks, Ralph, and welcome everyone on behalf of the Board of Pharmaceutical Sciences. It's great to be part of this extremely exciting event that highlights the relevance of sciences, particularly pharmaceutical sciences, for the profession of pharmacy as well as for the global health in general. I have been privileged to participate in many of these regional workshops, and it was a clear message that was given that the strong science background of our profession is enabling us to adapt to the consistently changing landscape that we're facing within our professions at the regional and local level. It is no surprise that the definition of a pharmacist, according to FIP, underlines the scientific training. And within the last 1.5 years, we experienced exposure to significant health challenges due to the pandemic. We have also learned that the public is exposed to much greater extent to innovations of pharmaceutical sciences that then gets translated in significant savings of lives across the globe. For pharmacists to be able to interact with the population and make it understandable what the benefit and all the risks are of pharmaceutical products that we use these days, we need scientific education. So it's a great pleasure to be part of this and continue to support our colleagues in practice with the fundamentals of pharmaceutical sciences, but at the same time work together with our colleagues in the regions to support development as well as innovations in pharmaceutical sciences that prepare us for the next decade. This particular program is a one FIP program because it brings in together practice, science, and education. But for me, it's extremely exciting also to see that this is in collaboration with UNESCO. When you look at UNESCO, the S in UNESCO stands for science. So that is the foundation that we can build on and bring to fruition the promises of our innovations from the sciences with regards to the prosperity of our population at the global scale. So I look forward to further interaction on behalf of the Board of Pharmaceutical Sciences with all our support that we can provide from our sections and special interest groups and our scientific organizations that are part of FIP. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Giovanni, for your always insightful comments and the importance, of course, of engaging with the pharmaceutical sciences in our education transformation efforts. So we have now, may I have the next slide, please? We have now reached the core purpose of this global summit, and that is the roadmap's outcomes from the UNITWIN Regional Workshops. We will first hear from participants from each region and their video messages of their perspectives of the workshops and their outcomes achieved in these workshops. And that's shown on the next slide, please. So here's what we've asked these participants to record a video message for us, and we'll be hearing from each of those regions. The next slide, please. So from the Americas region, we have Beatriz Padilla from the Colegio de Farmacéuticos de Costa Rica in Costa Rica. Oops, go back one.
Hello.
Go back one slide. We have to have the video.
El impacto que la educación farmacéutica tiene sobre la salud de un país hace que la universidad y las estructuras organizativas comprometan todos sus esfuerzos con el fin de lograr la mejor formación de sus egresados. Por tanto, la organización profesional no puede estar alejada de la formación porque es la entidad que dará cuentas a la sociedad de sus profesionales. En el Colegio de Farmacéuticos de Costa Rica no solamente se han analizado detalladamente las metas de desarrollo de FIP, sino que se han incorporado al plan estratégico del colegio y de la Comisión de Escuelas y Facultades de Farmacia. Pondremos vela y timón en la hoja de ruta y creemos que la mirada de FIP hacia Centroamérica y Suramérica será un valioso aliado. Agradecemos por este espacio de expresión, por favorecer articulaciones y por vincular mundos. Unámonos con FIP-UNITWIN para promover la educación farmacéutica.
So thank you, Beatriz. Next slide, please. From the Western Pacific region, we have Kirsty Galbraith, who is the lead for the FIP Development Goal 4 working group, who is from Monash University in Australia. We have the, let's show the video and then we'll go back one slide.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm so pleased to see this important work being done by FIP, taking a needs-based approach to the regions. I'm particularly pleased that the Western Pacific region has identified competency development as a priority. We had originally focused on advanced and specialist development. However, on reflection, the focus has moved to encompass development of a fit-for-purpose workforce across the breadth of early career pharmacists through to pharmacists working in advanced and specialist roles. My organisation, Monash University, strongly supports this initiative by embedding competency development in all aspects of our undergraduate and postgraduate teaching. We also strongly support the other highlighted areas of patient safety, for example, through our Centre for Medicine's Use and Safety, and academic capacity, for instance, through recent recruitment efforts which have revitalised our academic workforce. I look forward to working with you all on these initiatives. Let's unify with FIP-UNITWIN to advance pharmaceutical education.
So thank you, Kirsty. And next up, we'll hear from the Eastern Mediterranean region, Heba Abdel Halim from the University of Petra in Jordan.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts after participating in the FIP-UNITWIN workshop. Of the many take-home messages from the workshop, two were brought up at the faculty level. The first message was about the need to give more focus on the mapping of different curriculum courses with our program's competencies. As students are our main stakeholders, we thought about measuring their awareness of competencies. Therefore, we started an assessment that aims at surveying students on their awareness of the different VSc pharmacy program competencies. The main aims of this study are to determine which of the competencies are most important from their perspective and which ones that may require to be given more weight in our curriculum. The second message of the workshop is that the workshop gave an insight into the importance of having CPD as part of the undergraduate curriculum and its role in building the lifelong learning culture among graduates. These ideas will get more focus in our ongoing efforts to improve our curriculum. Let's unify with FIP-UNITWIN to advance pharmaceutical education. Thank you.
Thank you, Heba. And next slide, we'll hear from the African region and Khalid Garba Mohammed, who is an FIP-UNITWIN volunteer and is a lecturer at Bayero University in Nigeria.
Well, the two take-home messages I got from the FIP-UNITWIN workshop are one, the fact that pharmacy education is dynamic and changes over time, especially with the current global advancement in terms of technology, both for education and practice. And secondly, the need for the establishment of African-wide pharmacy school association so that it can cater for the peculiarities and needs of African pharmacy schools so as to address some of our problems. I intend to support the implementation of this roadmap for pharmacy education in Africa in particular by volunteering myself to be part of any meaningful progress this African-wide pharmacy school association will be engaged in. And secondly, by disseminating the information across my colleagues, not only in my university here in Nigeria, but across any other pharmacy schools in Nigeria and across Africa at large. So let us unify with FIP-UNITWIN to advance pharmacy education globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalid. And now we'll go back to the Western Pacific region and Mark Ryan Langit from the FIP member organization, Philippine Pharmacists Association in the Philippines.
Hi, and mabuhay. Coming from the workshop of the FIP-UNITWIN, we have realized that as we further pharmacy education, this is definitely going to have an impact on patient safety and benefiting, of course, the health of the community. But with that in mind, we have to do this by cooperation and through collaboration. Just like what we have agreed at the Western Pacific region during this workshop, that we have to look into our resources, that what we can share with each other through the strategies, through that even of frameworks, even through faculty and student exchanges. As a national officer of the Philippine Pharmacists Association, and even as an academic pharmacist, I am bound to support with more policies, with projects that we can implement, that this would definitely target our priority developmental goals on patient safety, on academic capacity, as well as on advanced and specialist developments. And so, to my fellow countrymen, tayo po ay magbuklod at makiisa with FIP-UNITWIN upang mas mapagbuti pa ang edukasyon sa pharmaceutical. Let us unify with FIP-UNITWIN to advance pharmacy education. Thank you. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mark. And we'll next go to the European region. And we'll hear from Oleg Devanyak from the All-Ukrainian Pharmaceutical Chamber and the Uzhhorod National University in Ukraine.
Dear colleagues, Digital technologies in health are currently the most potent driver for pharmaceutical innovations. During the FIP-UNITWIN workshop for pharmacy and pharmaceutical science education in the European region, the opportunities for the digital health training were discussed and the promising topics were proposed. The workshop participants called to identify basic and advanced digital skills for pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists based on the current and emerging needs in digital health practice. The All-Ukrainian Pharmaceutical Chamber commits to the proposed actions and strongly supports the improvements of digital skills for the current and future pharmaceutical workforce. Let's unify with FIP-UNITWIN to advance pharmaceutical education. Давайте об'єднуватися з FIP-UNITWIN для розвитку фармацевтичної освіти.
So thank you, Oleg. May I have the next slide, please? So I just want to thank all of our regional presenters and their messages for us on engagement in the UNITWIN program. We'll now turn to the regional workshop chairpersons who will present the roadmaps, outcomes determined at each regional workshop that best fit their regional needs. The order of presentation for these workshops was determined by the dates at which the workshops were scheduled. So next slide, please. So it's my pleasure now to begin with the Americas region presentation by the co-chairs, Toyin Tafada, president of the FIP Academic Pharmacy Section, a member of the AIM Advisory Committee, and dean and professor at the Howard University College of Pharmacy in the United States, and Silvana Leite, also an FIP AIM Advisory Committee member and professor at the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil. Welcome, Toyin and Silvana.
Thank you, Ralph, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. It's an honor for us to be here today, and thank you so much for joining us. And I want to thank all our invited experts who contributed to the Regional UNITWIN Workshop for the Americas, and I'm excited to have worked with Silvana, my distinguished colleague from Brazil, on the Regional Workshop for the Americas. We will present a summary of the roadmaps created after their extensive work and feedback. So specifically for North America, the development goals that were identified are listed here for you. DG 13, policy development, DG 1, academic capacity, DG 9, CPD strategies. And these are the actions that we expect to execute in the next several months to years. For DG 13 on policy development, we would like to provide a platform through UNITWIN program to bring authorities, associations, accrediting bodies, and academia together to develop policies for emerging practice, science, and education workforce issues. For academic capacity, our hope is to create awareness and broaden information on the job opportunities and expertise and competency needs that exist for our young pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists in academia. And lastly, for CPD strategies, our plan is to develop and implement self-assessment tools to help understand where to dive deeper for subsequent learning. Thank you for your anticipated engagement as we implement these actions for the Americas. And that concludes the summary roadmap of North America. My distinguished colleague, Silvana, will present the roadmap for South and Central America. Silvana?
Thanks, Toyin. Good morning from Brazil. It's a great honor to be part of this important initiative of FIP and UNESCO. I'd like to give special thanks and praise to the participants representing Latin America in our regional workshop. In the region of Central and South America, we have a large number of countries with diverse realities in relation to pharmaceutical education. Therefore, the region has an important challenge to evolve and collaborate between countries and institutions. 3 development goals were selected in our workshop. So the first prioritized was the DG 13, policy development, and the objective is to amend existing pharmaceutical policies in favor of professional recognition of pharmacists. So the action for this DG is host a regional roundtable discussion with key stakeholders, including academia and students, to advocate for professional recognition. The next DG is number 1, academic capacity. And the objective is to develop inter-regional academic capacity building initiative for faculty staff in areas of clinical pharmacy, pharmaceutical care, and public health. For this one, the action is collaborate to establish quality standards for interprofessional and multidisciplinary education, experiential learning, and cognition, metacognition strategies, and hybrid teaching methods by publishing a guidance toolkit showing best practice across other regions. And one more, please. So the DG9, continuing professional development strategies. The objective is to promote CPD strategies and self-direct learning at an undergraduate level. So the actions one is a series of webinars in collaboration with other universities to promote CPD strategies and self-directed learning. This series will cover, but not limit to, transformational leadership, minimal skills and competencies for practice in Latin America, specialty courses including pharmacovigilance and interprofessional collaboration, and more, establishing alliances between universities, health authorities, and professional organizations to develop policies and complement the initiatives between FIP-UNITWIN Center for Excellence Program and Regional Forum of Americas. So those were the DGs prioritized for South and Central America. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvana. Colleagues, it is your turn now to provide some inputs regarding this work, and we thank you so much for joining us today again. So right now, please be ready. We would like to invite participants from the Americas region only. We encourage everyone that you will have a chance to give inputs in the other regions. But for this poll, we're asking, please, that the Americas region give us some feedback. And we have 3 questions coming up. So the first one is, as posted, implementing these roadmaps will have a positive impact to advance pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences education in my country and across my region. We ask that you select the one response that best describes your opinion. Do you agree, partially agree, are you neutral, or do you disagree? The poll is open now. After you've identified which one suits you, please click submit so that we can record your response. Thank you. I want to use this opportunity to thank our FIP-HQ behind the scenes. Thank you. And you can see the results of the poll. Regarding the first question, we have 83% agreeing, 15% partially agree, and we have neutral at 3%. I want to thank you very much for voting. We will proceed to the next question at this time. So the next poll, thank you again for working behind the scenes to support us here, Oscar, Neilhan. So the next question is asking if, about our reflection on our region's FIP-UNITWIN roadmap and revisiting our institution and our country's future plans on pharmaceutical education. So the question to you is, will you reflect on your region's FIP-UNITWIN roadmap and revisit your institution and our country's future plans on pharmaceutical education? Again, this will be for the Americas. If you're in North, Central, or South America, please respond with the response that best describes where you are today. Is that a yes, a maybe, or a no? Again, remember to submit so we can collect your responses, and we thank you again for your active participation in this session. Thank you, Ozga and Milhan. And we see about 67% indicated yes, 30% indicated maybe, and 3% indicated no. We do recognize from our workshop that with the North America region, there were several individuals that are already working on some of those plans. So perhaps that's the maybe, is that you're already working on it. So that's fantastic. We also invite you to share your plans with us according to the slide from the chat or at education@fip.org. We do want to hear from you. We want to stay engaged with you, and we thank you for your anticipated active participation in this work. We will move on now to question number 3. Question number 3. Thank you so much, colleagues, again, for your responses. We truly appreciate that. All right, so the poll for question number 3 is up. And the question here is,
sorry for intervening. This is for the European region. We have only 2 questions for each region. So thank you for America's regions for voting. And thank you, Toyin, for leading this part. But now we will go to the European region, if you allow us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, again for voting. And I'm turning it back over to the co-chairs to introduce our European colleagues. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So now we'll turn, and thank you, Toyin and Silvana, by the way, for your leadership of the Americas Region workshops, and glad to see the good support we have for your roadmaps. So next we'll hear from European Region. The co-chairs are Lilian Azzopardi, who also is an AIM Advisory Committee member and head of the Department of Pharmacy at the University of Malta, and Akia Mantel-Tuez, FIP Academic Section Executive Committee member and Director of the School of Pharmacy at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. So welcome, Lilian and Akia.
Thank you, Ralph, for the introduction, and together with Akia, we are very pleased to share the thoughts that have been compiled after the UNITWIN workshop that was carried out for the European region. And I thank everyone for joining us today. Of course, a special warm welcome to our European colleagues who have contributed and for the work and the roadmap that we are presenting today. And we look forward to have the next steps coming up for the European region. So in terms of the European region, the development goal, policy and development was highlighted to be an area that should receive a priority. The reason being that the policy could contribute towards pharmaceutical education, supporting the expanding and emerging scope of pharmacy in the European region, particularly with regards to the pharmacist contribution in services that contribute to patient safety, as well as to the pharmacist active contribution in the sciences area, for example, in the evolving area of pharmaceutical regulatory sciences. So as an action plan to meet this policy development with a particular relevance to what is going on in Europe, the action that has been highlighted to be as a priority is for FIP to act as a regional platform and collaborate with the many diverse stakeholders in Europe, including academic institutions, students, practitioners, policymakers, and healthcare professionals, to create a platform where we can all have access to the studies, and actions that are happening at a national or site settings that are capturing the impact of pharmacy services on health outcomes, and the studies and the data that is coming out from the many diverse pharmaceutical outcomes research that are taking place in our region. And by having the scanning exercise, there is a bird's eye view that we can all, as a European group, learn and apply in each of our individual settings. The next action plan that is being recommended is for this networking that is supported within FIP to support institutions, universities, academic institutions, to empower academic staff to be active and take an active and forefront role in providing advocacy at national and regional level towards this emerging scope of pharmacy practice in our region. And now I would like to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Okye, who will present the next two development goals that have been identified for Europe. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lillian. And indeed, the next slide is already up, where we have two more indicators that were prioritized. One was the number 5, competency development, and the other one was the number 20, digital health. And although many countries in the European regions already have competencies frameworks, usually they are for community pharmacists and hospital pharmacists within, let's say, the more traditional roles. But we see expanding scopes of pharmacy with specialization, like, for example, in geriatric pharmacy, precision medicine, and other types of skills. So one of the main actions for us in Europe would be to host workshops led by academic institutions to identify emerging competencies and learning outcomes, and also identify the so-called entrustable professional activities that we can use to measure. So we would like to host these workshops on expanding the scope of pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences in the European region. The other one, the number 20, digital health, was already mentioned by the colleague from Ukraine as one of the important ones that were discussed at length during the regional conference, workshop. It is about integrating digital skills and competencies into initial but also continuous pharmacy education. And it is across, let's say, the whole scope of digital health, including but not limited to artificial intelligence, machine learning, 3D production, but also things like telemedicine, for example. So we would like to establish a working group in collaboration with the FIP Technology Forum, where also other people outside the pharmaceutical sector are included, like, for example, people from IT, industry, digital health service providers, to identify the basic and advanced skills that are needed. So the basic skills that are needed for all graduates, but the advanced skills that are needed for the current workforce of pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists. And this is, of course, all based on what we feel are the current and emerging needs in digital health practice in European countries. Now back over to Lillian again for the European polls. Thank you so much.
So now on to our colleagues from the European region, and we would like to launch the poll for the first question and to have your thoughts on how you will be implementing these roadmaps and how they will have a positive impact on your actioning in your country. So I would like to invite you to submit your choice of degree of agreement, and this will help us to also, will help FIP also to move and refine and optimize our actioning over the next few months. So we will be getting the results of the ideas and your thoughts from the poll. And here we have, so thank you for your feedback and thoughts about the agreement with regards to the roadmap and the development goals and the actioning that we have presented. And now I would like to move on to the second question in this poll, again directed to our European colleagues, which will be looking at how, after learning the roadmap at today's session, how you will be reflecting on this experience and revisiting your institution or action plan in your setup. And here is the invitation for you to contribute to this question, to this poll, and submit your thoughts. And it would also be very nice to have on the chat box your ideas and thoughts as you plan and reflect on how you could introduce these discussions that we are having today in your particular institution. And here we have the feedback that we have from the European colleagues with regards to this application of the UNITWIN roadmap for the European region. And I thank you again for your participation, and I do invite you to put in your thoughts in the chat box. And at this stage, on behalf of Okia and myself, would like to thank you for this contribution and pass on the floor back to the chair, Ralph Altiere.
Well, thank you, Lillian and Alkia, for, again, your leadership in the Euro region on these roadmaps. Excellent work. Next, we'll hear from the Southeast Asia region. Co-chairs are Bomjin Lee, who is an AIM Advisory Committee member and Dean of the College of Pharmacy at Aju University in South Korea, and Rajani Shakya, also AIM Advisory Committee member and head of the Department of Pharmacy at Kathmandu University in Nepal. Welcome, Bomjin and Rajani. Is Bomjin with us?
Yes, Ralph. We'll start with Rajani first.
Okay. Rajani?
Thank you, Ralph. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm extremely glad to present the roadmap for development goals prioritized for Southeast Asia region. Thank you all for joining. Need assessment through FIPA member school profile analysis and regional workshop, which were held in October, came up with prioritization of the 3 development goals for this region, which was followed by roadmaps designing for achieving them. There are 3 DGs, DG 1, 5, and 9 prioritized for this reason. Among these development goal, first priority is DG 5, which is competency development. Objective of this development goal, depending upon the countries, it can be either to develop regional advanced competency framework or to review and integrate curriculum for clinical pharmacy competencies. Competency framework will contribute toward guiding and supporting pharmacists to develop their professional practice and career in line with the highest standard. At the same time, reviewing and integrating curriculum for clinical pharmacy competencies is also very essential. For thriving clinical pharmacy practice in the Southeast Asian region, a need for competency-based system for educating, training, and assessing pharmacy profession is long been felt. It is vital to ensure that students, whether undergraduate or postgraduate level students, are adequately prepared and successful upon graduation for the next phase of their career. To strengthen and enhance the education and training that support the advancement of practice, the most important requirement is the curriculum. Curriculum design should be such that it covers all required competencies goals and objectives of clinical pharmacy profession and help graduate advance their role and responsibilities in providing comprehensive medication management of patient in a multidisciplinary healthcare team. And how can we achieve this? So the action can be, there is a development or the FIP-UNITWIN Center for Excellence for the Southeast Asian region to form a working group to adopt and adapt global competency framework into the regional context. Now, next prioritized development goal is DG1, that is academic capacity. Academic capacity enhancement is essential to provide a competent pharmaceutical workforce. For Southeast Asian region, to achieve this goal, one of the most important tasks is to provide young faculty members with opportunities to build academic capacity, including research capacity enhancement. Capacity building should include the ability to meet minimum national standard in order to ensure quality education. And for achieving this development goal, FIP is developing an academic capacity trainer series for all level of academics, building on the FIP competency framework for educators. Now, I request Professor Bomjin Lee to explain about the next development goal. The floor is yours, Professor Lee.
Okay, so you got the DG9 CPD strategies to build a CPD culture from the undergraduate levels. So action is FIP to build on its existing FIP DG9, the CPD resources, and develop a CPD toolkit. There's three things. One is for building the lifelong learning culture and the infrastructure from undergrad to all career level of practitioners. And two, second is raising awareness within the students' competence and faculty leadership and members. And third is for including CPD as a part of undergraduate curricula and supported country case studies across all regions. And next. And so we invite all participants from the Southeast Asian region only to join the following polls. Next.
We'll hand over to Rajani at this point to lead the polls.
Okay.
For this reason as well, we have the same questions, which you have already seen in case of earlier two reasons. I would like to request all the attendees from Southeast Asian region to participate in this polling. It will help us and FIP for moving ahead and also help in further refining the roadmap. Thank you everyone for polling. We can see 83% of the participants have agreed upon the first question. 17% partially agreed. So I'm happy to see that majority of the participants from Southeast Asian region agreed to this. Thank you very much. Now we have another question coming up for you. Participants from Southeast Asia region, kindly poll on this question as well. Thank you very much. So 81%, so majority of the participants have agreed that they will be reflecting this FIP-UNITWIN roadmap and will revisit their institutions, country's future plan on pharmaceutical education. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your active participation. And we also would like to invite you to share your plans with us for implementing these development goals in your region. You can either email to us or write in the chat box as well. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Giovanni and Bomjin, for your leadership in the Southeast Asia region. And I think we see already common areas emerging across regions for on the roadmaps. So next we'll hear from the Eastern Mediterranean region co-chairs, Mohammed Rahal, AIM Advisory Committee member and Dean of the Pharmacy Program at the Lebanese International University in Lebanon, and Rula Darwish, who is an FIP Academic Section Executive Committee member and professor at the University of Jordan. Mohammed and Rula, welcome.
Thank you, Ralph. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Dear colleagues, it gives us great pleasure and honor to be among you today in this summit to talk about a very important FIP initiative, that is the roadmap for pharmacy education. Thank you, FIP, for this opportunity. And thank you, dear colleagues, for participating in the workshop and enriching it with your inputs. Transforming pharmacy education is essential to prepare pharmacists for the changing and emerging roles. These roles require competent and self-learning graduates who is flexible to cope with the advances in pharmacy profession. In the previous FIP-UNITWIN workshop for our region, the Eastern Mediterranean region, the SWOT analysis was thoroughly discussed in an attempt to co-create a roadmap to advance pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences. In that workshop, needs and priorities in pharmacy education was identified with focus on academic capacity and need-based education. There was agreement on key issues that our region has to work on in order to improve pharmacy education, and thus there was prioritization of the FIP DGs that need our attention. There were also some other DGs that will also be addressed, but the main focus would be on the major ones that all agreed on. The DGs that most agreed on is the DG 5, and this is to develop competency framework for expanding scope of practice and adopt this framework through implementation on policies. And here, the FIP-UNITWIN Center for Excellence for the Eastern Mediterranean region is going to form a working group which will host workshops in different areas like spreading awareness on competency framework, including mapping with the curriculum, and also inviting key regional stakeholders from different sectors and from different disciplines like academics and research institutions to address need-based competency framework, competency-based education, perform competency assessment, and also develop a regional competency framework accordingly. Now, the other DG, next slide, please. The other DG which was agreed on is DG 9, which is the CPD, to promote CPD strategies and self-directed learning and at undergraduate level in order to prepare them for the profession. FIP will build on its existing FIP DG 9 CPD resources and develop a CPD toolkit in an attempt to raise awareness within faculty leadership and members, including CPD as part of undergraduate curriculum, supported with country case studies across all regions. Also building lifelong learning culture from undergraduate to all career levels of practitioners, encouraging practice sectors leaders to develop career ladder. And this has been done in many countries in our region, but needs more legislation. Establishing and implementing national policies to support recertification of pharmacists through CPD. Here again, we have some countries in our region who have started doing so. As I mentioned before, some feedback that we collected in the workshop have not been implemented directly, as they might have required technical consideration and further consultation with all the regional stakeholders. But I assure you that this will have full attention in due time. I will address them very quickly. These are DG 3, 13, 19, and 6. And all these, which are quality assurance, policy development, leadership, patient safety, all these will be addressed by FIP-UNITWIN Center for Excellence for the Eastern Mediterranean region and will be acknowledged. And now I go to my colleague, Mohammed. Can you please proceed? Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope, thank you, Dr. Rolla, for the introduction and for sharing the regional DGs. Also, among the DGs that were highlighted during the workshop, DG number 6, leadership development, and the objective is to support regional development of leadership skills for academics, students, pharmacists, and pharmaceutical scientists. And this is through building and on existing FIP resources on FIP DG6, like the FIP AIM, GALF, or Global Academic Leader Forum, work in collaboration with the regional stakeholders and the students associations, host virtual leadership boot camp for students and early career professionals, where practitioners can provide real-life leadership cases and with an outcome of building regional pharmacy leaders of the future equipped with professionalism. Also, during the workshop, next slide, please. During the workshop, as we mentioned, there was very intense and very comprehensive discussion, and we came up with other DGs that were highlighted during the workshop, like DG number 3, quality assurance. And this is the objective of the center, to collaborate with and encourage local and regional societies and associations, form a working group, and building on existing FIP resources on DG3 to establish and develop quality standards, quality assurance strategies, and framework for pharmaceutical education. Also, during the workshop, the regional workshop, another DG was highlighted, which is policy development. And this is very important DG, where the center is aimed to collaborate and encourage local and regional societies and associations, such as the Scientific Society of the Colleges of Pharmacy in the Arab world, to establish and enforce the implementation of policies that regulate and advance the pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences sector. Also, to develop framework and toolkit for regional policy improvement and implementation with emphasis on research, fund, and support. Not only that, even after the workshop, we received input from our colleagues in the region, like Dr. Hiba Abdel Halim. We acknowledge her feedback that we should also highlight the importance of DG number 7 in advancing and integrating services. And from Dr. Asma Al-Hakkan from Kuwait University, and she was suggesting as to develop policy formation to come before development of leadership. And there will be all these DGs, not only these DGs, but also the other DGs, the 21 DGs. They are all important, but the priority of the center is to start with these DGs. Next slide, please. So now I will invite participants from our region, from the Eastern Mediterranean region, to join us and answer the questions that were asked before. A question, please. If you agree, or you partially agree, or you disagree about implementing these roadmaps, will have a positive impact to advance pharmacy and pharmaceutical science education in your countries and across the region. Please participate in and let us know if you agree, or you partially agree, or you disagree. And if you partially agree or you disagree, we would like to know in the chat box your feedback, your reflection, and your suggestion about how to improve our roadmap. So the results is there. We have about 79% agree that the implementation will have a positive impact. About 19%, they partially agree. We would like to hear from those from our colleagues who said they partially agree. What else they want to see in our roadmap, such that the center can take care of, and only 2% are in neutral. Second question, please. Also, we'd like to see your answers or reflection on this question. If you will reflect on your region's FIP-UNITWIN roadmap and revisit your institution or your country's future plans on pharmaceutical education. Also, we need your feedback and participation to this question. I will vote as well. And please share your plans, your ideas, your thoughts in the chat box. That's great. We have 86%, they said yes, that's great. And only 14% they said maybe. We would like to know why. Maybe they will revisit or not. Is there any problems or they have any ideas? We would like to hear from them in the chat box. And thank you all colleagues for participating. Back to you, Ralph.
Okay, thank you, Rula and Mohammed, again, for your great leadership in the Eastern Mediterranean region. We are running a little short on time, so we'll move ahead quickly to the Western Pacific region. Paul Gallagher, AIM Advisory Committee member and professor in the Department of Pharmacy at the National University of Singapore. And a quick message from Carlo Mara, who could not, unfortunately, join us today. So Paul, over to you.
Hello, everybody, and I hope you're all keeping safe and keeping well. Let me talk about the Western Pacific region, which is a diverse geographical region covering countries such as Australia, New Zealand, China, the Philippines, and here the Republic of Singapore. Notwithstanding that diversity, we quickly reached a consensus on the priority goals. Maybe if I could just have the correct slide showing, we seem to be on the Eastern Mediterranean region. Actually, you have already heard of what our priority goals are, thanks to the video clips from Kirsty and from Mark. So our first goal, patient safety. I think we can all agree on that. And maybe just to comment in addition to that action, we have wonderful resources from Monash University in Australia, where they have developed tools to embed patient safety in all forms of education. Second, academic capacity. We've already seen that in other regions. There was discussion within our group that academic capacity is hard to build. And you can see under action point 2, one of the strategies or enablers for academic capacity that we discussed and agreed on was to secure seed funding to support research initiatives and exchanges. And finally, on the next slide, you'll be able to see what our third development goal was. So our third development goal is 4, which is advanced and specialist development. And here, thankfully, again, because Kirsty from Monash University was in our group, we were talking about not developing from scratch new competency framework for the region, but to leverage on the resources of FIP, and so to adopt and to adapt them so that they fit the needs-based approach. Let's move to the poll. And to question 1, which you're now familiar with, we can move to that slide. And let me ask everyone who is within the Western Pacific region, please to participate so we can see if we have validation of our approach. So Western Pacific region, please participate and press submit. We should have the result of that poll presently. Thank you for that validation. And for those of you who are partially agree, neutral, and disagree, and in this forum, we may not have time to explore those individually, please do put them in the chat box or email Carlo and myself, because I would like to hear from you and to see how we can improve. And let's move to the final question from Western Pacific region, question number 2. Again, everyone knows the drill. And if I can ask you to vote and to press submit when you're ready. We should have the result presently. My thanks to you for that validation, and let me hand back to Ralph. Ralph, back to you.
Thank you, Paul, for your leadership in the Western Pacific region. Always good to hear from you. And next, we're going to move on to the African region. And we have 3 co-chairs, Mwila Chiluba, AIM Advisory Committee member and Dean at the University of Zambia, Yaya Chunara, AIM Advisory Committee member and head of the Department of Pharmacy and Pharmacology at the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa, and Arinola Joda, Assistant Secretary and Editor-in-Chief of the African Pharmaceutical Forum in Nigeria. Now, they are not going to be reporting on a roadmap because they've been working on that for a number of years. Remember, the UNITWIN program began in Africa, but they do have a major development in progress on which they will report to us. Welcome, Willa, Yaya, and Arinola.
Thank you very much, Ralph. This is just to just expand on what Ralph just said. The African region started off this UNITWIN program, and so we had done all these stages that the other regions are just starting on. And where we have gotten to right now is at the stage where one of the outcomes of the UNITWIN program for the Center for Excellence in Africa, one of the outcomes is that the African region should establish an African-wide association of faculties of pharmacy. And that is what our own regional workshops around this UNITWIN programs has been on. So our objective and our roadmap is to set up the African-wide Association of Pharmacy Schools that will progress the priority of FIPDGs, academic capacity, quality assurance, access to medicines and services, as well as advanced and specialist development across the whole of Africa. And we intend to achieve this objective through setting up a steering committee to establish the association. And we'll be deciding on the vision and mission of the association, strategic plan, priorities, and key stakeholders for the association. Membership of that association, including membership services, benefits, events, marketing, as well as everything else that has to do with membership. And of course, decision-making, leadership, and legislative steps in establishing the association, as well as finances. We know that without finances, we will not move very far. So financing and sustainability processes for the association, these are the objectives around establishing this African-wide association. I would like to invite Professor Yaya Chunara to give us some reflections around the regional workshops for the African Forum, for the African region. Yaya, please. You're still mute. You didn't unmute yourself.
So thank you, Arinola, and thank you, colleagues, for the opportunity to be part of this exciting initiative, where we FIP to set up the African-wide Association of Pharmacy Schools, as Arinola has mentioned. So we had a regional workshop that took place roughly a month or two ago, and a part of that workshop, one of some of the reflections, observations we had was the 5 DGs that Arinola has highlighted there is the ones that are most emphasized within the region that we need to focus on, and also we done a kind of a SWOT analysis on the region, and finding out that the region in Africa does well in a few things. Offering the didactic curriculum in pharmaceutical education is one of them. The strength in pharmaceutical sciences research, as well as public health pharmacy driven research, where we talk about things such as antimicrobial stewardship, botanical therapeutics, which is also a big thing in the region, and also novel drug delivery systems. These are the things that we do well in the region, and the public health expertise also includes things like infectious diseases, as well as tropical diseases and proficiencies, which I think we need to drive within this association and our pharmaceutical education concepts going forward. There are rooms for improvement in certain areas, as the SWOT has showed, being, in terms of advanced practice and specialization, especially in the regulatory sciences, as well as in industrial pharmacy, ways to revolutionize our industrial pharmacy capacity. I think that's where most of the developed world is, in getting more translatable research into practice. Student and faculty exchanges was another thing, leadership development and capacity development. Another big core thing was the interprofessional education. So this thing about the pharmacists being the core part of the healthcare system within the African region, we cannot afford the hierarchical situation approach to defining healthcare workers as we know it, in a resource limited setting. So basically, we need all hands on deck, whether it's pharmacists, doctors, nurses, OTs, physios, to maximize each one's scope of practice. By saying that unlocking the value of the pharmacy education to provide an extended scope of practice within the region. For example, primary care drug therapy, pharmacist initiated management of ARV therapies, all of these kind of infectious diseases and tropical diseases. So that scope of practice within the law obviously needs to be expanded within the educational framework. There's many opportunities that were discussed at the workshop, aligning our needs-based curriculum programs in light of the current global best practices, innovative means of teaching and learning in resource-poor settings. So it's famous that African region is resource-poor, but how can we innovate and come above that challenge by using innovative techniques? Improving competencies of pharmacists, such as the vaccination role as we've seen in the COVID pandemic currently. I mentioned like the extended scope and the IPE teamwork, working together with other healthcare professionals, and also for institutions within the association now to identify these gaps and together find ways of how we can overcome these gaps to obviously move the African region ahead in terms of that pharmaceutical education. And lastly, the possible challenges, institutional and political willingness to make the change, support education transformation in Africa, and also the inadequate funding. I mean, funding is, I think it's a global thing, and more so with the resources in Africa, as Arinola has just mentioned. But I think we are not hooked up only on that. There's a lot of good things happening, and I think we need to capitalize on the pockets of excellence that are and do exist in Africa. So that's just basically what came out from the workshop, and we're very excited to make sure that this Africa-wide Association of Pharmacy Schools, goes ahead and becomes a great success, and contribute to the global pharmacy agenda. Arinola, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yaya. Your reflections are much appreciated, and would like to. There is no poll for the African region, as I said. We have gone way past where many of the other regions are, but would also still like to have our comments around how members believe that we can establish this members' inputs into the establishment of the African-wide Pharmacy Association, African-wide Association of Pharmacy Schools. We'd like to have your inputs, we'd like to have your support, and we'd like to have your participation. For those that are willing to be involved in the setting up of this African-wide association, we'll invite you to please send a message to the African Pharmaceutical Forum email at africanpharmaforum2018@gmail.com, or directly through FIP, it will get to us. Thank you very much, and very pleased to be here on the call. Over to you, Raul.
So thank you, Aranola and Yaya, for your leadership in this area. And we continue to look forward to the progress that you're going to make on this African Association of Pharmacy Schools. It's not an easy task, but it's an important development for Africa. And there are other associations, as you know, in other regions of the world that can be important resources for you. And I really hope I'll be able to rejoin you in this process because I'd like to see this move forward. I want to thank all of our regional chairs and all of the participants in the regional workshops for their great work in developing these roadmaps. Now, we are obviously running short on time, actually overtime. So we're going to ask, and I think this was put in the chat already, that if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box and the regional chairs will answer your questions directly. So we'll wrap up this section like in the next minute and a half. Pierre, any really quick comments?
Well, thank you, Ralph. I had a very long speech to give, but I'll
put it in the chat box, Pierre.
So basically, I think coming from FIPAIM, which is the academic institutional members of FIP, definitely we're looking forward to have synergy with UNITWIN and its developing network over the years. I just looked through the DGs, and out of the 2110 were identified by different regions, and from them DG1, which is about academic capacity, was identified by 4 regions. And the competency development and CPD strategies and policy development were identified by 3 regions. So of course at FIPAIM we're interested, and our mission is to look at global issues affecting schools of pharmacy, but definitely having this input from regional initiatives will be very important for us to work closely with the UNITWIN network and making sure that we can provide the tools and some of the the expertise that we have in different schools from the globe to help regionally pharmacy education develop. So I'll keep it at that, and I'm really looking forward to working hand in hand with UNITWIN in the future.
Thank you, Pierre. And I'll just echo the comments about the ones that are common across the areas. I think academic capacity clearly is one of them that actually I think affects all regions, though may not have been prioritized by all. And that's both in the numbers of people in academia and their areas of expertise as we try to move education forward. And we all have work to do in attracting our students into academic careers, which is no easy task, but one that's very important for us. And the other is this policy development and how important it is for helping to expand scope of practice for pharmacists, have pharmacists recognized as providers. Clearly very important. And one that is particular of interest of mine, and it was only mentioned once, but I just want to remind everybody, digital health, that development goal, it's really important as we move into the future, because obviously tech is ever expanding in all areas of our lives, and certainly in healthcare and pharmacy. So I just want to thank everybody for their great work on these workshops and developing these roadmaps, and the strong support we have from the polling for the use of these roadmaps in helping to move your education programs forward. So we have commonalities, we have unique areas. We thank you for sharing those, and we will be helping to facilitate through the UNITWIN program those common areas across the region so we can all learn from each other. So I did have a recommendation for a 30-second break, but while I'm introducing Catherine, you can stand up, take a quick break, take a breather, so we can move on really quickly. So again, our CEO, Catherine Duggan, will chair the second part of this Global Summit. She is a strong supporter of education and the UNITWIN program as a platform to implement the development goals and the other FIP resources we have for advancing pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences education. She's been a champion and leader in the regional outreach approach that FIP has undertaken across all of its areas. And of course, the One FIP construct, which she helped develop, that integrates education, practice, and science to address health needs, both on the preventive side and of course on the therapeutic side. So Catherine, we gave everybody 15 seconds to stretch and recharge. So the program is all yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. And of course, we'll encourage everybody who's here today to listen again when they can take their full 30 seconds of rest and recuperation. Thanks so much, Ralph, Pierre, all our regional colleagues. What a fantastic session. Next slide, please. So it gives me great pleasure to host part 2, which will be taking probably about 10-15 minutes just to reorientate ourselves. And this is a really focus on the global call to action from FIP on pharmaceutical education. So we have 5 main points, and we've got to think about the context for this. There's a projected shortfall of 18 million health workers by 2030. Now, bear in mind, colleagues, that shortfall was in place before the pandemic. So we can imagine it may be even bigger. Next bullet. There's no health without a well-educated, flexible and adaptable pharmaceutical workforce. The FIP development goals bring science, practice, workforce development and education into one transformative framework for our profession. The FIP-UNITWIN Regional Workshops helped identify priority areas across the regions and co-created roadmaps to advance pharmacy and pharmaceutical science within and across all regions, as we mentioned at the beginning. Now, this call to action, advancing pharmaceutical education across all countries, advocates for a needs-based, concerted, strong and effective approach towards improving and advancing pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences across our profession through education, both now and into the future. Alison, I'll hand to you for a second.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Next slide, please. So considering the imperatives and preamble that Catherine has explained, the International Pharmaceutical Federation, which represents over 140 national organizations, calls on academic institutions, professional organizations, policymakers, and key pharmaceutical stakeholders around the world to take action and apply the measures outlined in this call to action for advancing pharmaceutical education in order to advance pharmacy and pharmaceutical science. Due to time constraints, I will just be giving a high-level overview of the content of the call to action, and I kindly invite you to follow the link to access this document and learn all about the 18 actions required for advancing pharmaceutical education in your country, in your region, and globally at large. This document spells out 18 actions that need to be taken across all levels of pharmaceutical education, initial education, postgraduate education, in order to transform pharmaceutical science and practice. And interestingly, all actions and measures are strategically mapped and aligned with the 21 FIP development goals, providing a holistic approach with education at the center for transformation in order to improve global health, again, by advancing pharmaceutical science and practice. It covers actions that need to be taken to have a dynamic, future-proof, and globally adaptable pharmaceutical workforce, especially in the areas of policy interventions, needs-based competency development, and pharmaceutical education intelligence. It also covers measures that need to be implemented to improve academic capacity for a competent, quality, and future-proof workforce through collaboration, principles of equity, and social accountability. I would now invite Catherine to share FIP's commitment to ensuring these measures and actions are implemented. Next slide.
Thanks so much, Alison. Number one, FIP commits to providing intra and inter-regional networks, platforms, expertise, capacity, resources, guidance, and global standards to advance pharmaceutical education, training, and research. 2, FIP commits to setting up an FIP-UNITWIN Centre for excellence to address the tailored needs and priorities of pharmaceutical education, workforce, and across all regions. Number 3, FIP will advocate for policies that will influence advancement of training and education of the pharmaceutical workforce. And number 4, FIP will commit to transforming and scaling up pharmacy education by ensuring high quality and fit for purpose education and training to provide the foundation for workforce development and professional and scientific advancement. Next slide, please. Gives me great pleasure now to introduce Anne Anderson, who is here from the UK National Commission for UNESCO. Anne, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Catherine. I'll keep it very brief. On behalf of UNESCO, can I congratulate all the members of the UNITWIN FIP Pharmacy Education Network. I've joined one of your events before and I'm always very impressed by the enthusiasm and commitment of everyone in the network. You are absolutely key to achieving 2 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, good health and well-being and quality education. I've been most impressed in what you're doing. I commend the activities you're doing based on the great work you've already done in Africa, now being rolled out across the world. So keep up the good work. I look forward to joining you in the future, and congratulations to all concerned.
Anne, you're a star. Thank you so much. It means so much to us to have the support of external agencies like UNESCO. And this is really important for pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists across the world and our pharmacy educators. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's really important, colleagues, for us to have the engagement of our regional forums and our regional leaders. So we wanted to just give you a couple of messages from the regional pharmaceutical forums leaders by way of response, so to speak, to the commitment. This will outline the impacts they would like to see in their region through implementing their region's FIP-UNITWIN roadmap on pharmaceutical education. Away we go.
Challenges faced by the health system in our region are important and are increasing every day. To tackle those challenges, the workforce development is a key element to achieving development goals and universal health coverage. The FIP-UNITWIN Partnership Roadmap is fundamental to advance pharmaceutical education by using the successes of the pilot project within the Afro region and the opportunities offered by the COVID-19 pandemic. African Pharmaceutical Forum unifies with FIP-UNITWIN to advance pharmaceutical education.
Hello, my name is Eduardo Savio. I'm the president of the Pharmaceutical Forum of the Americas. The 3 FIP-UNITWIN roadmap priorities for the American region has been established, and they are policy development, DG13, academic capacity, DG1, and CPD strategies, DG9. In this order, establishing alliance between university, health authorities, and national pharmaceuticals organizations to develop and complement initiatives is a key issues in our region. El Foro Farmacéutico de las Américas se une a FIP-UNITWIN para promover la educación farmacéutica. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Hello. As we know, it's a responsibility of pharmacy schools to educate pharmacists for professional roles in healthcare. These roles must be patient-focused medication management services. aimed at patient safety and delivered in collaboration with other healthcare professionals. Within this context, I believe it's appropriate for the FIP-UNITWIN roadmap to help pharmacy schools to do a number of things, including to meet national standards of quality, to engage adequate numbers of appropriately qualified staff, to develop curricula that address both the foundation sciences plus therapeutics, social sciences, public health, and health systems, and to give students opportunities for experiential learning. Technological developments will have a significantly growing impact on practice, and the FIP-UNITWIN roadmap should help pharmacy schools to engage with the profession and help it address these changes. The FIP-UNITWIN roadmap must create an iterative process to enable the pharmacy schools and professional bodies to develop career paths for pharmacists, including practice specialisation. To meet these expectations, the FIP-UNITWIN roadmap should facilitate greater collaboration between pharmacy schools, both within countries and between countries. Thank you for listening.
The impact that I would expect to see in the C region through implementing FIP-UNITWIN roadmap is as follows. Possible bridging of the gap that might exist between the actual level of competencies of the existing healthcare workforce and the desired competency levels required to achieve universal healthcare. The roadmap would certainly help development of academic capacities to build the required competencies through curricular updating and effective curricular delivery, as well as by inculcating the culture of lifelong learning to sustain competencies. CERFORM Forum unifies with FIP-UNITWIN to advance pharmaceutical education.
Hello everyone. From Eastern Mediterranean region, we want to see when we apply and implement FIP-UNITWIN roadmap on pharmaceutical education, Eastern Mediterranean region, we want to see impacts on DG5, competency development, to develop competency framework for expanding the scope of a practice and adapt this framework through implementation of the policies. Also, we want to see impact on DG9 CBD strategy to promote CBD strategy and self-directed learning at undergraduate level. We want also to see impact on DG6 leadership development to support regional development of leadership skills for academic students, pharmacists, and pharmaceutical sciences. We want to see also on DG3 quality assurance and on policy development, as develop the framework and toolkit for regional policy improvement and implementation with emphasis on research fund and support. Thank you very much.
So colleagues, it gives me great pleasure, having heard from our regional forum leaders, to now hand over to Nilhan, FIP lead for education policy and implementation. Nilhan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and thanks colleagues for staying with us longer than anticipated. We apologize for keeping you much longer. Next slide, please. I would like to announce our next steps and how we will be, implementing the next steps for the FIP-UNITWIN Centres for Excellence. So you've seen the roadmaps and launched by our regional workshop chairs, and we will be forming our next FIP-UNESCO agreement and our next partnership based on these roadmaps and the call to action. So this is going to be our work plan. Together with UNESCO. And next bullet point, please. And together with our FIPA members, our academic institutional members, we will be forming the next FIP UNESCO UNITWIN Center for Excellences for all of the regions. We had an example and proof of concept in the African region. So we will be building on that experience and reach out across all regions with these roadmaps. And we will be facilitating the application and agreement process with each institution for the UNESCO Chairs program. So we are aiming to assign UNESCO chairs at participating institutions. So you'll be part of a UNESCO network. Next bullet point. And of course, our academic pharmacy section members, our educators network, our BPS members, our scientific colleagues, professional organizations, key regional stakeholders will be participating in this network, because we started in the beginning that we are bringing practice, science, education all together to tackle educational challenges. So this is going to be a one FIP educational network. Next bullet point. And we are aiming to appoint regional FIP UNESCO UNITWIN chairs as well. So for each region, we'll be having a chair who is going to lead the implementation of the roadmap together with all colleagues across the region. And then this is going to be also an opportunity for region to lead its own initiatives to achieve the advancement in pharmaceutical education. Next bullet point. And the FIP UNESCO UNITWIN Center for Excellence across all regions, led by the regional chairs, including all of our members from different perspectives, will be delivering the roadmaps that we presented to you today. And within and across regions, we are aiming to implement the roadmaps at every region, but we are also looking into how each different region and country can support each other. While one is having an experience, the other has a need. We'll be also doing the matchmaking between the regions as well. Of course, with the collaboration between our key, through the collaboration of our key regional stakeholders. And the final bullet point. And we are aiming to report the progress on these roadmaps at the FIP Health Minister Summit, anticipated Health Minister Summit, mentioned by our president and our FIP leadership in the beginning. And of course, this is going to be a journey, long journey, following 2023 as well. So we'll follow up, and our deadline is 2030. Basically the achievement of FIP development goals. So we'll continue to implement these roadmaps, but we'll continue to renew our needs and priorities as we move towards 2030. Next slide, please. I'll hand over to my colleague Özge to share a message with you, and then we'll continue. Özge?
Thank you very much, Nilhan. We are very, very excited to hear all those global action come to life today. And thank you for all colleagues joining us today. We are very, very thrilled to have you with us. We were going to launch the poll, but we have kept you longer than we have anticipated. Apologies for that. So instead of the poll, I would like to invite you to join our work. If you would like to become a member of the FIP UNESCO UNITWIN Center for Excellence for your region, please contact us at education.fip.org or write to the chat right now. Half an hour ago, you've all received an email about the global action and the Center for Excellence. You may find more information in that email. If you don't find it, please let us know. Write us from education@fip.org. We are here for you all the time. Thank you. Nilhan?
Thank you, Özge. Next slide, please. Catherine unfortunately had to leave for another meeting, so I'll be closing the event on her behalf. It's a pleasure for me. And this was I know we have shared a lot of information with you, so it's going to take some time for all of us to digest what has been shared, but we have plans how to implement all of this, and we'll be supporting you. Of course, we need all of you to take ownership of these regional roadmaps. So we'll appreciate your presence, 264 participants staying with us for 2 hours. And we will be, as we announced the next steps, we'll be reaching out to all of you. We'll be building networks, providing our platforms, resources, and of course in collaboration, because you have the experience, you have the knowledge about your regions and countries, and we'll be needing your support to achieve the advancement of pharmaceutical education. This is the backbone of FIP's mission. So please follow us, watch our space as we reach out to you for the next steps. And we are inviting you to explore the global call to action, because this is basically a compilation of the entire roadmaps. So your ownership and your comments will be extremely helpful. And we also would like to see whether you would be interested in translating the global call to action in your region, or whether you have other approaches to implement the call to action in your country or your region. Simply connect with us from education@fip.org, and I'll also just share the call to action link through the chat as well. You may also scan the QR code that you see on the screen. And it's a pleasure for me to thank to our speakers, to our co-chairs, Catherine, Ralph, our leadership, Professor Anderson from UNESCO, for leading an excellent event. And also, again, thank you to our participants for being with us today. As my colleague Özge has mentioned, we just dropped you an email from FIP. Please check your inboxes. You have the call to action and our next steps also summarized there for you. And we are looking forward to engage with you in 2022 as well. And we wish you a nice half of the month, and hopefully see you next year. Thank you very much, and have a nice day, afternoon, and evening. Thank you, colleagues. Bye-bye.